In the year 2347, humanity had reached farther than ever before. Dozens of colonies dotted the stars, each one a testament to Earth's ambition. But the vastness of space came with dangers, some natural, others political. Among these dangers was Epsilon 7, a small but thriving human settlement nestled near the edge of known space. Epsilon 7 wasn't glamorous. It was a mining colony carved into an icy moon orbiting a dying star. Its people worked hard, extracting rare minerals used to fuel Earth's sprawling fleets and terraforming projects. Life there was tough but bearable, until disaster struck. It happened without warning. A massive asteroid, unseen by sensors until it was too late, slammed into the moon's surface. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the fragile ecosystem. Buildings crumbled, oxygen generators failed, and thousands were left stranded in sub-zero temperatures. Communication signals barely made it past the debris cloud surrounding the moon. When they did, they carried desperate pleas for help. Earth. Command, this is Epsilon 7. We've suffered catastrophic damage. Request immediate evac and medical aid. Back on Earth, the message sent shockwaves of its own. News outlets broadcast images of the devastated colony, showing collapsed domes, frozen landscapes, and terrified survivors huddled together in makeshift shelters. Public outcry demanded action. Within hours, President Marcus Hale announced the launch of Operation Lifeline, a massive rescue mission led by Captain Elena Voss, aboard the flagship Solace. Captain, Voss was no stranger to danger. At 42, she'd spent over 2 decades serving Earth's United Galactic Federation, UGF. Known for her calm demeanor under pressure and unwavering commitment to protecting civilians, she seemed like the perfect choice to lead such a critical operation. But there was one complication. Epsilon 7 lay dangerously close to territory claimed by the Krylos Dominion, a mysterious alien coalition whose motives toward humanity remained unclear. To avoid conflict, Earth broadcast their intentions openly. "This is a humanitarian mission," declared President Hale during a televised address. "We seek only to save lives." For now, the Krylos remained silent. Chapter 2. Into the Unknown. The rescue convoy departed from Earth's orbital dockyards just days after the asteroid strike. It consisted of dozens of ships, freighters loaded with food and medical supplies, frigates equipped with advanced life support systems, and even civilian vessels carrying volunteers eager to help. Among them was Dr. Anika Patel, a renowned trauma surgeon who insisted on joining despite being well past retirement age. "This isn't about me," she told reporters as she boarded her assigned ship. "It's about saving those poor souls out there." As the convoy traveled deeper into uncharted space, Captain Voss couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. She stood on the bridge of the Solace, staring at the swirling hyperspace tunnel outside the viewport. Her second-in-command, Commander Liam Carter, approached her. "You think the Krylos will interfere?" he asked cautiously. "I don't know," Voss replied, frowning. "They've never attacked us directly, but they haven't exactly been friendly either. Let's hope our broadcasts got through." Unbeknownst to Voss, however, something far more sinister awaited them. Chapter 3. Betrayal in Space. 2. Weeks later, the convoy entered the final leg of its journey. Ahead loomed Epsilon 7, shrouded in a thick haze of dust and ice particles. From the Solace's bridge, Voss could see flashes of light reflecting off the wreckage below. "We're almost there," she said softly, addressing her crew. "Prepare for descent protocols." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed across every console. "Captain, multiple bogies incoming," shouted Lieutenant Sarah Kim, the ship's tactical officer. Voss spun around, her heart pounding. On the main screen, dozens of alien warships emerged from behind nearby asteroids. They bore the distinctive triangular markings of the Krylos Dominion. "What are they doing here?" Carter muttered, gripping the railing tightly. Before anyone could respond, the Krylos opened fire. Bright streaks of plasma tore through the void, striking several supply ships in rapid succession. Explosions lit up the darkness as hulls ruptured and escape pods launched wildly into space. No warnings. No demands. Voss whispered, stunned. They're just killing us. Chaos erupted across the convoy. Civilians screamed as their ships disintegrated around them. Medics scrambled to treat wounded crew members while engineers desperately tried to stabilize damaged systems. Back on the Solace, Voss barked orders, trying to maintain order amidst the carnage. Return.
Fire!
Focus on shielding the remaining supply ships. Her voice cut through the panic, grounding her crew. The Solace unleashed a barrage of missiles, forcing some Krylos vessels to retreat temporarily. But the enemy vastly outnumbered them, and reinforcements kept arriving. One by one, the convoy's ships fell. By the time the attack subsided, only a handful remained operational, including the Solace. Thousands were dead or missing, including many of the volunteers who'd come to help. Chapter 4. Fury and Retaliation. News of the massacre reached Earth within hours. Footage captured by surviving cameras showed the brutal efficiency of the Krylos assault. Entire families had been wiped out. Medical teams were slaughtered alongside patients. Even children hadn't been spared. Public outrage exploded. Protests erupted in major cities demanding justice. Social media flooded with hashtags like Never Forget EP7 and War on Krylos. Politicians clamored to appear strong, promising swift retaliation. President Hale addressed the nation from the UGF headquarters, his face grim but resolute. Behind him hung a holographic display of the destroyed convoy. Today, we mourn the Eid, lives lost in what should have been a mission of mercy, he began, his voice steady but laced with anger. But let this be clear. The Krylos Dominion has declared war not just on Earth, but on all sentient beings who value peace and cooperation. Their actions are an affront to everything we stand for, and so I say to them and to the galaxy, we will not tolerate this aggression. We will fight back. We will prevail. Cheers erupted from the crowd gathered outside the building. Flags waved, fists pumped, and chants of Earth Unite echoed through the streets. War fever gripped the planet. Chapter 5. Doubts begin to surface. Amidst the chaos, whispers of dissent began to emerge. In a dimly lit office buried deep within Earth Command's intelligence division, Lieutenant Arjun Malik stared at his monitor, his brow furrowed. He'd been analyzing intercepted communications between the Krylos ships involved in the attack. Something didn't add up. These transmissions, they're fragmented, he murmured to himself. Almost like someone edited them. Malik leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. If the Krylos hadn't acted alone, if someone else had manipulated them, then Earth might be marching blindly into a trap. But who would benefit from starting a galactic war? And why? He glanced at the clock. It was late, and most of his colleagues had already gone home. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was onto something big. Picking up his datapad, he began cross-referencing the transmission logs with classified files stored in Earth's archives. Hours passed. Finally, he found something, a reference to a shadowy organization known only as Project Eclipse. According to the file, Project Eclipse operated independently of Earth's government, funded by wealthy corporate elites. Its stated goal was securing humanity's dominance in the galaxy. Malik's stomach churned. If this group existed, and if they truly had engineered the attack on the convoy, then the truth was far darker than anyone realized. But before he could dig deeper, an urgent alert flashed across his screen. Earth's fleet was mobilizing for war. Ships were already en route to Krylos territory. There was no time to warn anyone. Epilogue. War engulfs the stars within days. Earth's forces clashed with the Krylos Dominion. Planets burned, fleets collided, and billions died as hatred consumed both sides. What started as a rescue mission turned into humanity's deadliest war yet. And somewhere in the shadows, the true architects of the conflict watched with cold satisfaction. Months turned into years and the galaxy became a graveyard. Entire planets burned under orbital bombardments. Fleets clashed in fiery battles, leaving trails of debris floating silently in the void. Billions died, not just soldiers, but civilians, caught in the crossfire. For Captain Elena Voss, the war had changed everything. Once an idealistic leader who believed in diplomacy and peace, she now commanded Earth's military campaigns against the Krylos Dominion. Her once shining uniform was faded, her face lined with exhaustion. Every victory felt hollow, every loss, personal. The Solace had been upgraded into a warship, its sleek design now scarred with patches from countless repairs. Voss stood on the bridge, staring out at the wreckage of another battle. Bodies drifted past the viewport, human and alien alike, their lives extinguished in seconds. "Commander Carter," she said quietly, addressing her second in command. "How many more have to die before this ends?" Carter hesitated, unsure how to respond. He'd seen the toll the war had taken on Voss. She rarely smiled anymore, and when she did, it never reached her eyes. "We're winning, Captain," he finally replied. "That's what matters." But Voss wasn't convinced. Winning meant little if humanity lost its soul in the process. Chapter 7. Secrets beneath the surface. Back on Earth, Lieutenant Arjun Malik continued his secret investigation into Project Eclipse. His discovery of the shadowy organization haunted him. By day, he worked as a low-level analyst for Earth Command, sifting through endless streams of intelligence data. By night, he dug deeper into classified files, risking his career, and possibly his life, to uncover the truth. Malik knew he couldn't do this alone. He needed allies, but trust was scarce in wartime. Most people were too consumed by fear or anger to question why they were fighting. Finally, he confided in Dr. Annika Patel, the trauma surgeon who'd survived the Convoy massacre. "I think we've been lied to," Malik told her one evening in a dimly lit cafe near Earth Command headquarters. Patel raised an eyebrow, skeptical but intrigued. "What do you mean?" He explained about Project Eclipse, their ties to corporate elites, their manipulation of communications, and their possible role in orchestrating the attack on the convoy. Patel listened intently, her expression growing darker with each revelation. "If what you're saying is true," she began, trailing off, "then this war isn't about survival, it's about greed." Malik nodded grimly. "And until we expose them, it'll never end." Patel agreed to help, using her connections within Earth's medical community to gather evidence of atrocities committed during the war. Together, they pieced together fragments of a conspiracy that stretched across light years. Chapter 8. A different perspective. Meanwhile, deep within the Krylos Dominion, doubt simmered among their ranks as well. Commander Zinara, a high-ranking officer in the Krylos fleet, had grown increasingly uneasy about the war. Unlike humans, the Krylos communicated primarily through bioluminescent patterns and subtle gestures, making deception difficult, but not impossible. Zinara reviewed logs from the initial attack on the convoy. Something didn't sit right. Why would the Krylos target unarmed ships carrying civilians? It went against their code of honor. Digging deeper, she uncovered encrypted messages suggesting rogue elements within her own government had authorized the strike without consulting the ruling council. Furious, Zinara confronted Admiral Kyle, her superior officer. "This attack was unauthorized," she accused, her glowing patterns flashing red with anger. "You betrayed our principles." Kyle remained calm, though his own bioluminescence flickered nervously. "War requires sacrifices, Commander. Sometimes drastic measures are necessary." "But at what cost?" Zinara demanded. "We've become monsters." Kale dismissed her concerns, warning her not to question orders again. But Zinara couldn't let it go. If the Krylos were being manipulated, then they were no better than the humans they fought. Determined to find answers, she began secretly, gathering intel even if it meant risking court-martial, or worse. Chapter 9. An unexpected meeting. Years into the war, both sides found themselves locked in a stalemate. Resources dwindled, Morale plummeted, and casualties mounted. Desperate for a breakthrough, Captain Voss led a daring raid on a contested star system controlled by the Krylos. The mission went awry almost immediately. Enemy reinforcements arrived sooner than expected, trapping Voss and her crew in a crumbling nebula. As they prepared for a last stand, Krylos ships surrounded them. To everyone's surprise, the enemy commander hailed them instead of opening fire. On the main screen appeared Commander Zanara, her luminous form shimmering faintly. "You fight fiercely, human," Zanara said. Her voice translated haltingly through broken tech. "But why? What drives you?" Voss stared at her, wary but curious. "Survival," she answered bluntly. "What about you?" Zanara's glow shifted, signaling hesitation. "I wonder, are we truly enemies? Or are we pawns in someone else's game?" The two women exchanged cautious words, sharing fragments of information. Slowly, they realized they shared similar suspicions. Someone powerful was pulling strings, prolonging the war for their own gain. "This changes nothing," Voss said eventually, breaking the tense silence. "Unless we act." Zanara nodded. "Agreed, but acting means betraying our own kind." Neither woman flinched. They understood the risks and the stakes. For the first time, an enemy became an ally. Chapter 10. Hope Amidst Chaos. With newfound determination, Voss and Zanara began working together covertly. Using encrypted channels, they shared intel and coordinated efforts to expose the truth. Back on Earth, Malik and Patel joined forces with sympathetic members of Earth Command, smuggling evidence to Voss whenever possible. Their combined efforts led them to a remote space station located in neutral territory. Intelligence suggested it served as Project Eclipse's headquarters, a fortress housing the masterminds behind the war. Planning the assault was risky. The station was heavily guarded, and infiltrating it would require precise timing and absolute secrecy. Voss volunteered to lead the mission personally, knowing full well it might be her last. As the team prepared, Zanara approached Voss privately. "You remind me of myself," Zanara admitted, her bioluminescent pattern softening. "Once, I believed in my cause completely. Now, I wonder if I ever truly understood it." Voss smiled faintly. "Maybe none of us did, but we can still try to fix it." Zanara returned the gesture, her glow steadying. "Then let's finish this." Epilogue. Countdown to Revelation. The final assault began under cover of darkness. Voss, Zanara, and their combined forces launched a surprise attack on the station, catching its defenders off guard. Explosions rocked the structure as they fought their way inside, dodging automated turrets and elite guards. At the heart of the station lay the command center, a vast chamber filled with holographic displays and frantic technicians. At its center stood a figure cloaked in shadows, the leader of Project Eclipse. "You're too late," the figure sneered, activating a self-destruct sequence. "Even if you stop us, the galaxy will remain divided." But Voss wasn't listening. She focused on broadcasting the station's files to every corner of the galaxy. As alarms blared and walls crumbled around them, hope ignited. For the first time, the truth was free. The command center of Project Eclipse's space station was chaos incarnate. Alarms blared deafeningly, red emergency lights flashed across the walls, and debris rained down as explosions tore through the structure. In the middle of it all stood Captain Elena Voss, her uniform scorched and her face streaked with soot, but her resolve unshaken. She worked furiously at a terminal, bypassing firewalls and encryption protocols to access Project Eclipse's files. Beside her, Commander Zanara fought off waves of guards, her bioluminescent patterns flaring brightly with each strike. Their combined forces held the line just long enough for Voss to finish what she came here to do. "Got it," Voss shouted, over the din, slamming her fist onto the console. The station's main holoscreen flickered to life, broadcasting live footage of the atrocities committed by Project Eclipse. Files detailing manipulated communications, staged attacks, and corporate greed flooded every communication channel in the galaxy. Billions of humans and Krylos alike watched in stunned silence as the truth unfolded before their eyes. This war, it was never about survival, Voss whispered, more to herself than anyone else. It was about control. As the broadcast spread, shockwaves rippled across star systems. On Earth, protests erupted outside government buildings, demanding accountability from those who had orchestrated the conflict. Within the Krylos Dominion, rebellion ignited among factions disillusioned with their leaders' complicity. For the first time since the war began, hope stirred amidst the ashes. Chapter 12. A hero's sacrifice, but victory came at a price. The self-destruct sequence initiated by Project Eclipse's leader could not be stopped. Warning klaxons screamed louder, and sections of the station began collapsing under the strain. "We need to go," Zainara urged, grabbing Voss's arm. Voss hesitated, glancing at the terminal one last time. The transmission was still active. The message would continue broadcasting even after they were gone. But ensuring its completion meant staying behind, to hold off pursuing guards. "I'll stay," she said firmly, pulling away from Zainara. "You get out of here. Make sure this doesn't happen again." Zainara's glowing patterns shifted erratically, signaling distress. "No, you can't." "There's no time to argue," Voss interrupted, her voice steady despite the weight of her decision. "Someone has to make sure this ends right." Before Zainara could respond, Voss turned back to the terminal, typing commands to stabilize the signal. Behind her, reinforcements poured into the chamber, weapons drawn. "Go!" Voss yelled, firing, her sidearm to cover Zainara's retreat. Reluctantly, Zainara obeyed, leading the remaining team members toward the escape pods. As she reached the airlock, she glanced back one final time. Through the smoke and flames, she saw Voss standing tall, her silhouette illuminated by the glow of the holoscreen. The station exploded moments later, sending a fiery shockwave rippling through space. Chapter 13. Fragile Peace. In the days that followed, the galaxy reeled from the revelations. News outlets replayed footage of Project Eclipse's crimes endlessly, while analysts debated how such corruption had gone unchecked for so long. Governments on both sides scrambled to distance themselves from the scandal, arresting high-ranking officials tied to the conspiracy. On Earth, President Marcus Hale resigned in disgrace, replaced by a coalition government determined to rebuild trust. Similar upheavals occurred within the Krylos Dominion, where reformist leaders seized power from the old guard. For the first time in years, ceasefire talks commenced. Representatives from Earth and the Krylos met aboard a neutral diplomatic vessel, hammering out terms for an uneasy truce. Though tensions remained high, both sides agreed to work together to prevent future conflicts. Memorials were erected to honor the fallen. Monuments on Earth bore the names of soldiers and civilians alike, while the Krylos created luminous shrines in orbit around their homeworlds. Among these tributes was a special plaque dedicated to Captain Elena Voss, whose sacrifice had paved the way for peace. "She gave everything for us," Dr. Annika Patel said during a ceremony unveiling the memorial. Her voice trembled with emotion. "Let's make sure her death wasn't in vain." Chapter 14. Lingering shadows. Despite the progress, questions lingered. Had Project Eclipse truly been dismantled, or did fragments of the organization remain, hidden in the shadows? Lieutenant Arjun Malik continued his investigations, now working openly alongside newly formed oversight committees. He uncovered evidence suggesting rogue elements still operated covertly, profiting from black market arms deals and exploiting post-war instability. "They won't stop," Malik warned during a briefing with Earth Command's leadership. "People, like this, always find ways to adapt." Commander Zainara shared similar concerns. Back within the Krylos Dominion, she pushed for transparency and accountability, knowing full well that distrust could easily reignite old hatreds. Together, she and Malik maintained secret contact, vowing to monitor potential threats to the fragile peace. Yet amidst the uncertainty, small signs of hope emerged. Joint efforts between Earth and the Krylos led to groundbreaking advancements in technology and medicine. Trade routes reopened, fostering economic recovery. And slowly, painfully, humanity and the Krylos began to understand each other, not as enemies, but as survivors of the same tragedy. Epilogue. A new dawn years passed, and the scars of war began to heal. Children grew up hearing stories of heroes, like Captain Voss and Commander Zainera, whose courage had changed the course of history. Artists painted murals depicting their alliance, while historians documented lessons learned from the conflict. One evening, aboard a refurbished ship, once part of the doomed rescue convoy, Lieutenant Malik gazed out at the stars. Beside him stood Dr. Patel, her hair now streaked with gray but her spirit undiminished. "What happens next?" Malik asked quietly. Patel smiled, leaning on the railing. "We keep going. We remember the past, but we don't let it define us. There's still so much good we can do." Malik nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, it felt possible. Out in the vastness of space, the light of distant suns twinkled, faintly, a reminder that even in the darkest times there is always hope.